All right, Scavengers, welcome to the Six Scale Scavengers podcast, episode 23. My name's Ryan Fontaine in the host chair, joined by my good friend, Chris Letty. Chris, it's always a good night when we have a chance to chat and record a podcast. You and I just had about a 20-minute conversation before we even hit the record button. Sometimes that's when the best conversations happen. But, you know, we've got a pretty full agenda today. Unfortunately, we don't have a super cool guest like we had last week with Sean Boogie. If you have not listened to episode 22 yet, you got to go back. Sean was dropping so many good nuggets about his work experience with Marvel Television as a production coordinator. And Chris, it actually got me to go back and start watching the Daredevil series on Netflix. That's how pumped I was for that conversation.
I'm gonna pull your Marvel fandom card for not checking that out yet. No, it's great. It's great content. I love the Daredevil series, and I'm glad that you finally had some time to delve into it. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are so far into the series, and be looking for a Daredevil hot topics.
Well, you know me too well. I started watching with my wife. We started watching, I think, Saturday or Sunday night, and I think we're through 6, 7, maybe 8 episodes so far. Mm-hmm. We've been trying to do like 2 a night. I mean, some of them are a little bit on the longer side, some of them are a little shorter, but I think she's actually enjoying it just as much as I am. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I never thought they were bad. Let me get that on the table. I just never had the time.
Yeah.
But the fact that they kind of, unfortunately, as we talked with Sean last week, they have a beginning, middle, and an end right now. Hopefully, as we've talked about the Save Daredevil campaign and their social media channels, and they were gracious enough to mention us. I know both you and I know Steve, a couple of the others on the admin team, signed the petition to hopefully get Daredevil back on the airwaves at some point. I can see why people wanted to do it now. I have, Chris, looked a little bit at the Daredevil figure. I'm a little biased because I haven't obviously seen him in the costume yet. I actually would really like to see him just in the black mask. It's funny because it's not like, air quotes, the costume, but he's just so badass in that. And I knew a little bit about the character ahead of time, Matt Murdock, and I actually like him a lot more. I hope that they do get renewed and we get an opportunity to get some more of these Marvel Television figures out there in Hot Toys form.
It would be a pretty awesome day to hear that they get renewed. I just read online Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin.
Oh, he's so good.
Oh, he's so awesome. Good. He's awesome. He said that him and the whole cast would be up for coming back if it gets renewed. And it shows in the actors' performances and the production quality, just the stunts and the sets and the costumes and everything. It's just, they really nailed it with that series. And for me, that first season, I should say, they portrayed Kingpin and Daredevil, those actors, just to the T. And it's really awesome to see Kingpin's his scheming and his past and why he does what he does. And so I really hope that we do see more Daredevil content in the future. I would be really sad if it kind of gets wiped aside and, we have to look for a reboot, so to speak, down the line. It's such a good series that shouldn't be over as of now.
I can also see why it's really good in a television series, and it actually gives me a ton of hope for the Disney Plus stuff, because it's not going to just try to shoehorn some of these characters like Falcon, Winter Soldier, Wanda, Vision, all this other stuff. Like, there's stories to tell, and sometimes it's in a longer form than you can kind of cram into a 2.5, 3 hour movie. and you get a lot more character development over the course of, a mini series, or in this instance, essentially a full series, because I mean, they're longer episodes. It's not like it's 26 30-minute episodes.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit longer. So I don't know. I know I'm kind of rambling here, as I tend to do on our podcast, but if you can't tell, it definitely has me hooked. And I think I'm going to try to, with my wife, go through the, kind of like the Netflix timeline, figure out what comes in next, and go through. I think Jessica Jones might be up, and then Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and a lot of those things, the Defenders. And we're just going to enjoy it. I mean, unfortunately, we know that there is going to be an end. I know Jessica Jones, that season drops maybe even tomorrow. And I don't know. It's pretty cool. As a Marvel zombie, as both you and I are, it's cool that there's other content out there other than, the MCU films.
Yeah. And one quick little thing is, between the 3 seasons of Daredevil and the Defenders, I don't think there's been, I think this was mentioned on Marvel Studios News podcast a while back when they did a retrospective on the series, that we've seen Daredevil the most out of any Marvel character, hours wise. So we really get that character fleshed out, and it's kind of crazy to think about it that way.
Good stuff. Other noteworthy things, Chris, I know Captain Marvel hit the digital home release last week, and I'm kind of patiently waiting for the 4K release next 2 weeks. Actually, next week, I believe it's when it's going to release. So I've kind of made the switch to that as a format. I've been in iTunes only for quite a while, and actually some of our members in our private Facebook group can see that I've been offering just members only contests the last couple Sundays, or last couple weekends, I should say, with some of like the extra digital codes that I've gotten. I wish I had a little bit more participation in there, but I mean, they're just some of the other MCU films that I've picked up the 4K version of. And, if I can pass that digital code on to somebody and they can benefit from that, I'll go ahead and do that. I mean, we've got a great community, and I'm not going to go out there and sell a digital code. I mean, that just feels kind of scummy. So if I can have somebody benefit from a movie they may not already have in their collection, we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm eagerly looking forward to that. Chris, that was only a film that I only saw once in the theater. I know you and I went with Raul and went to O'Neill Cinemas in Epping, New Hampshire, and really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to that. And unfortunately, Endgame might be the same thing. I've got a couple days off from work next week, and
I don't even know if it's still in the theater.
It's still. I checked locally. I think I can still find it. It's the run's getting done. I want to see it one more time. I might take my son, who's not quite 8, and I still feel like he'll be okay with it. I mean, all of his friends have told him what happens, and I mean, he's in first grade, so he already knows what happens. It was funny because I was talking to him, about the film, because I obviously, more often than not, I'm blaring soundtrack music in the car, so he knows when I'm listening to the Avengers or anything. And he's like, "Yeah, my friends are really nice. They haven't really spoiled the movie for me at all in the bus." And then he started to go on to like some of the plot points and stuff. I was like, "Buddy, I hate to break it to you, but they kind of have spoiled the whole movie for you." And he just kind of looked like, "Oh man." So yeah. I don't think he'll have any issues seeing it, and I'm not going to force him to like Marvel and the Avengers, but it'd be a dang shame if he did.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I do the same thing. I'm listening to my podcasts, and like you, I listen to a lot of the soundtracks and the soundtrack podcasts and all that stuff. So, and we got all the books. So my daughter, she's 6.5, and she knows about everything. We were just reading a story about how Miles Morales became Spider-Man at bedtime. So, and we're trying to get through that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie as well. And she's like, "This isn't how it was in the movie." Like, yeah, well, No, I watched Captain Marvel this week, and I I don't know. There's something about the way Brie Larson plays that character that I really like her choice of direction with the character and stuff. And I just think her as a character, it's she's just visually stunning as far as like when she's in full binary whatever mode and stuff. So I really enjoyed watching it again. And yeah, it got me thinking to go your route with multiple Captain Marvel figures, but
Stop.
I had to pull back the reins a little bit.
Insert Justin Timberlake disapproving meme.
Yeah, just shaking his head at me.
I have that saved on my phone. Anytime you do something that I know you shouldn't, that's at the ready to go, because I'm a good friend.
Yes, you're my collecting conscience there.
So, Chris, speaking of Spider-Man, we also have we're starting to get a lot more TV spots for the Far From Home trailers. The press tour is going to be starting up soon. You know, obviously the Avengers films have a tendency to be a lot more secretive about the plots. And I'm not saying like they're going to spoil the movie for anybody in advance. And Sony has a tendency to be a little bit more forthcoming in their trailers than, say, Disney would be, because obviously Disney basically produced the film on Sony's behalf. Sony's the one that's releasing it. I don't care whatever they have for an agreement, as long as we get Spider-Man and as long as Tom Holland is Peter Parker, I am okay with that. I'm getting pretty amped for that movie, Chris. We're actually less than a month away from the release.
It's crazy. These movies coming at us like this in short time. But we're going to have a bit of a break between Marvel movies or MCU movies after Far From Home is in theaters. So enjoy this one, and hopefully I can see it more than once in the theater. I'm really looking forward to it. I've checked out a few of the interviews on the late night television shows with the cast. So it looks like they have a good camaraderie with each other and a good dynamic. So I'm hoping that plays out on the big screen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Really looking forward to that. So, Chris, let's jump over to news, and we'll talk first. I talked with Steve about this figure on the last Scavengers Assemble. You had an opportunity to kind of jump in really late to that conversation to talk about the Rescue Armor Pepper Potts from Avengers Endgame, MMS 538, diecast 32, retailing for $407. Chris, this thing's got a long lead time. January to March, not 2020, 2021.
That's insane, right?
I mean, it is. I think most of our listeners know you and I are big proponents of payment plans, and you can stretch this one out quite a far, if I remember correctly. And of course, I don't remember exactly, because as we'll talk about in a little bit, don't really want to say I've been reluctant to add this as an order, but I really, going back to what we just talked about, I need to see Avengers a couple more times, Avengers Endgame, to see how I feel about this figure. I mean, yes, it's Pepper Potts. Yes, she's been there since the beginning. She's not a huge part of the MCU. She's a big part of Tony Stark's story. I would have rather gotten an updated Pepper Potts than what we got in Iron Man 3 as a figure than I would want her to be in the Rescue Armor. I think it looks really cool. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I think, for the diecast going rate, I mean, we're not going to sit here and complain about cost. I mean, it is what it is. And we're based in the United States. I mean, we're not going to get political in any way, but given what situations are with tariffs and all that other stuff, all that other garbage, basically, I don't know if that has any impact on that stuff. I mean, the cost is what it is. We're the consumers. Mm-hmm. We can make a decision to buy or not buy anything. I don't really have a huge problem with it. And it's funny because I haven't made the decision on this based on the cost. It's more of, do I really want to add it to the collection? And that's where I'm kind of struggling with. I know, Chris, not to give it away, but I know this was a dopo for you. And I know you and I have talked at length, because basically this this dropped like right after we had our last podcast. So I feel like it's kind of old news, but it's new news to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean the price thing, I don't know. I just, the way things are going price wise from Sideshow, I wasn't surprised with the price, honestly. And again, for me, it's like, look, I got, maybe it comes out early, like, and by early, like the end of 2020, but I've got plenty of time to stash that money away or plan ahead. I'm not really concerned about that. For me, like, I really like the aesthetic of this figure, and that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not, the importance in the movie, like as far as screen time, like I'm not really huge on that. I mean, she did make an appearance in the movie, so that definitely helps. But going back to your, kind of want of a revamp or a redo of, or I should say, going back to your statement of updating a Pepper Potts figure, we got the one from Iron Man 3. I have that figure. It would have been cool if they had kind of revisited that 2-pack and done a 2-pack with her in civilian clothing, just regular clothing, and then to have it go with this figure. And then you could get this diecast figure separately. Like, I think it would have been cool to do that. Mm-hmm. Kind of a flip the script to the previous one where you could get Pepper by herself.
Or I think it was the Mark 9.
Yeah.
Or the Mark 8 or the Mark 9, which was not diecast, I don't believe.
Right. No, it wasn't. So it's not, they didn't want to go in that direction. So whatever. I mean, this is the one we're going to get. I highly doubt we're going to get a Pepper going forward. I with all the other figures and stuff, I just can't see it. And we have seen a shift in sold prices for that Pepper recently. I mean, they've gone up, maybe about 5-10% compared to what they were going for before Endgame. I'm glad I got mine when I did. I mean, not crazy jump like some of these figures do, but I don't know. For me, she's on my list for must-haves. I'm not gonna complain about price or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly on this podcast, you don't have to defend your position. You just take it.
Yeah.
So good stuff there. So like I said, in closing, like I just haven't decided yet. It's not a no. It's just also it wasn't important to me to be a day one pre-order, and it just because I didn't day one pre-order doesn't mean I don't like it. But also what you had stated is it's so far out. I mean, yes, as we've talked about on some of the assembles, a lot of our admin team has started to do more pre-ordering than kind of waiting just because of distribution and not having to wait. So I'm not going to sit around and wait a ton of time, but then also, as we'll talk about with our collection update, I've got quite a few figures that have come in recently. I'll have some points accrued at some point. That's one that could really help knock some of that. That's a figure you might want to knock the cost down on. But yeah, it is what it is. So let's talk about another figure. And this actually dropped this morning versus tomorrow morning after we record. We've got another Spider-Man figure, Far From Home movie promo edition. MMS 535, retailing for $204, which is a fantastic price if you ask me. But a lot of the community is kind of, I would say they're mixed on this one. I think the people that missed out on the original tech suit are super jazzed. I mean, yes, they're not getting all the accessories, not getting a head sculpt. If I had come into collecting now, I'd be ecstatic because I sold my head sculpt. I actually my Iron Spider and the tech suit one, I sold both of those head sculpts. So, I don't have either of those. I still have a Tom Holland head sculpt for my homemade Spider-Man suit one, where he's a little bloodied up from his battle with Vulture. I mean, it's everything you'd want. I mean, we both highly ranked that figure in our 2018 rankings, and I'm actually glad people have an opportunity to get it. If you didn't have it already, it's an opportunity to get it if you already have it. As a lot of our members in our private Facebook group stated, easy pass, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to go out and order every figure that's out there,
right?
Unless you're a completist and you have issues.
Yeah. So I'm glad too that this figure came out. I mean, I've got it, so it's not really one that I'm not going to order it. So there's no need for me to order it. But as far as like it causing values to go down on the other one, I mean, I paid retail for mine, so I'm not really concerned about the value potentially dropping for the homecoming version. But it's a great figure. I love this figure. I think the biggest thing is that by them re-releasing this figure, it allows them to have a figure ready for anybody that's, that is watching them, is excited for the movie, and they're like, oh, I wonder what's out there and stuff. And it's like, boom, Hot Toys has this figure ready to go. I mean, not, relatively speaking. It's got a short window of when it's going to be available. Hey, I love Spider-Man. He's like one of my favorite Marvel characters. It would have been cool for it to be, slightly tweaked, but he wears the suit in the movie. Can't deny that. But it's a pass for me.
Yeah, we might talk about it a little bit later in the show with kind of just the topic of reissues and how we feel about it. I think we collect because we love him. It's the reason why. A couple days ago, I just was having a little trip down memory lane, and I think we've been doing the podcast for about 10, 11 months or so now. I think in July, actually, our podcast feed says we started in August, but I think we really launched it in July.
Yeah, we recorded in July.
So July-ish, one of those episodes will be kind of our 1 year celebration bash, and I'm sure we'll do nothing too special for, other than just maybe wax poetic about it. But just listening back to some of one of our preview episode, and obviously we changed locations, we kind of changed things a little bit, but the mission we started out to do from the beginning, it's still there. I mean, we've been pretty true. We've tried a couple little gimmicky things here and there that haven't really stuck, like Marvel trivia and whatnot. But the core of the show and what we stand for and stuff, I'm a little biased, Chris, but I feel like we've been pretty consistent with that. And to see that community grow around the podcast, to have, the Facebook group and whatnot. And it's, it's just, I don't really have the words to describe it, but it's been really cool. We're not out there thumping our chest saying, we're the best. And as we used to state all the time, I haven't done it in a while, but I'll do it again. We're not experts. We're not trying to be, the best. We're just trying to create a space where people can kind of just come casually talk about Hot Toys, collecting, make them feel like they're part of the show. I think what Steve has done with the Scavengers Assemble is taken that even further to actually include some of our listeners and members of our Facebook group into the conversation on a Friday night, have a beer, talk about collecting. None of us really have that opportunity to do that. I mean, hot toy collecting is so niche to begin with that it's just by pure luck that you and I are good friends and live in the same state, and that we have the opportunity to talk about it off the airways. But I think people are just looking for that opportunity because they just don't have it.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's tough, this area of collecting, at least like with, like, say, vintage Star Wars collecting. I'm part of that community. There's a lot more vintage Star Wars collectors out there. So it's a little bit easier to connect with people in that area, modern Star Wars collecting too. And it's just different in the Hot Toys and 6 scale collecting community. It's a more niche. There's less of us, and I don't know. I mean, we always look for areas to, try to reach as far as getting our content known and that sort of stuff. But we're not going to go outside of what we normally do. It's just, we just want to make sure that people know that there's this safe place, this good conversation going on here, and that, people are welcome to join us. It's been great. It's been great so far. Hopefully it continues.
Yeah, no, but we're not going away anytime soon.
No. Anyway, tangent over.
Yeah, side tangent on. At least it wasn't a soapbox or a rant or anything.
Yeah.
So let's finish up the news.
Yes.
We've got the Mark L or the Mark 50, but it's really the Mark L if you're a fan of our podcast. That accessory pack released in Hong Kong. People are starting to get emails stateside here that it's arriving early. I've only seen one review, and I think it was Justin's collection. Mm-hmm. I think what I saw, and I think we talked about this on the Assemble. At least the early takes on it aren't really too positive. I do follow quite a bunch of the Iron Man collectors on Instagram, and a lot of them have been pretty excited about it. I've seen some pretty cool poses and stuff that aren't like way doctored up and photoshopped and whatnot. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I would say. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing, as we talked about on the Assemble, I think maybe even TC may have mentioned it, is like they're not obviously die-cast, they're not light up featured, and they just don't really match some of the scuffed up part of the Mark L. And, obviously we both have the Mark L in hand. We didn't even talk about the agenda at the beginning of the show. 23 episodes in and I'm slipping, my friend. Anyway, so we are going to be talking about Thanos as a feature figure review. If you're now however many minutes we're into this podcast before I edit the heck out of it. But yeah, so we'll talk about Mark L in episode 24. We're going to talk about Thanos in this one. But I don't know, like, as I talked about in the Assemble, I'm not one to display a lot of accessories anyways. I mean, if it's not bolted down as an accessory, I'm probably going to try to sell it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I'm probably going to pass. Now, Chris, I do know that you do have it and you're going to keep it. So that, I feel like, although it's not a figure, we'll probably find some way to do some sort of a formal review about that when it comes in.
Yeah, maybe it'll be like a bonus review on one of our episodes. I don't know. We definitely won't have it before our next episode. It would be cool if we did, because it would be awesome to do a joint review with that. But yeah, I'm not like, it's one of those ones where I like accessories. Back when this first got announced, I was like, no way I'm getting this thing. Of course
record scratch.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get it. But I had a bunch of rewards and a coupon and stuff. So I really knocked the price down to make it fairly reasonable. Not like some people are like, if it was like $50, I'd buy it. I didn't get it down that far. So I don't know. I'll have my own judgment of it when it shows up. And I think the biggest thing, like you talk about, Justin was not that crazy about it. He was fair with his evaluation of it. So, for what it was or is, I think the Instagrammers are really psyched because the photography that is going to come out, even the promo images of this are just awesome against Thanos and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see those images come out from those talented photographers. But I don't know. We'll see. You guys, I'll be the guinea pig, because I think TC's getting it. I didn't hear anybody else say they're gonna get it, but we'll mess around with it. We'll let you guys know. I'll post some pics and all that stuff. But anyway, more stuff from Sideshow. Anybody that's got the Wakanda throne on order, they're getting notified that's being delayed by about a month or two. So that's unfortunate. Yeah, there's one other weird thing that was going on with Sideshow last night. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, I don't have any first-hand experience because I wasn't lucky enough to get a near $200 discount like some of you guys did.
Yeah, yeah. Jason in the group kind of posted, he's like, "Hey, anybody else get this discount?" Like, what the heck? So he had ordered a figure and he had gotten a $25 discount, and it was not, it was just automatically applied. And then he was like, "I wonder if this will work on another one." And it was like $200 discount applied. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this out. So the $25 discount worked. I'm like, okay. So then the $200 discount worked. And I'm like, dang, that's pretty awesome. But it was too good to be true.
Of course it was. And you still have yet to tell me what this other pre-order was.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it secret for a little while. So it's not that exciting. But no, I got an email from a nice Sideshow employee saying, yeah, that was a mistake and we're not going to be able to honor that. But they were kind enough. They said we could offer you a $25 discount on that figure, or you could cancel and get your NRD back. And so I just said, I'll just cancel the order altogether. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with their website. They've had some funky things go on recently. I know the Collecting Weekly guys talked about it with some import fees and stuff going to people in the UK being doubled up, but they rectified it. So hats off to Sideshow for taking care of everything. Yeah, just kind of a weird thing. I kind of wish that that $200 discount.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you could have gotten, a figure for like $25, I mean, that would have been a shame.
Yeah, it was going to be like $60 if I factored in shipping for the whole figure. So
hold on, twist my arm.
All right.
Yep, still a good deal.
Oh man. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for news. Let's move on to the collection update. I'll let you go first because you got a few things going on.
Yeah, collection update is pretty lengthy. I really didn't think it was going to be. I mean, I knew I had a busy week last week with some figures coming in from Sideshow, as we talked about on the Assemble, the glut of figures that were kind of holed up. Finally all released, and I got 3 new figures within like 3 days. It was absolutely nuts. Thankfully, I had a little bit of time to set them up, but I think before I go into the collection update, one thing that I have been doing, and if anybody sees what I've been posting on our Facebook group, is I've been trying to find ways to organize my shelves. And I went to do my own little flashcards, and this past weekend, I took our checklist from the website and figured out what I have on pre-order, printed it out, had a little arts and crafts day and cut them all up into little paper slips and try to organize them to figure out like, okay, I've got 4 DTOFs. How do I want to set these up? Within the last couple episodes, I've kind of done like an Infinity War DTOF, and I really like the look of that. And Chris, I think I'm ready to do it. I think I'm ready to break up the Iron Man only and the Captain America only DTOFs and kind of mix them in and go more for by movie or by character grouping. And that's a big step for me.
Do it.
Just do it. As I channel my inner Emperor Palpatine, because people don't think we talk about Star Wars on this podcast.
I know. We are slightly Marvel-centric lately. But we just need Matt and Roy to get some content out. I know they've been trying to coordinate schedules and
Roy's been, I know
he's been slammed with work and stuff.
We've all been really busy, so they'll get an episode out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I knew I was going to have Thanos come in. I did actually give a review of this Legend Studio display case on the Assemble, but if anybody hasn't listened to that yet, I decided to get a quarter scale display case for my Thanos to put on top of a DTOF to display that figure, because I didn't want to do the mod for a DTOF to make one of the shelves taller and another one shorter. Number one, I'm okay craftsmanship wise, but I also don't trust myself to make the shelf level. So, like, I gotta find something else. And I also decided I don't really have any room in my small collecting space to put in a Billy case to get extra storage and display space that way. So on Sideshow, they have the Legend Studio cases. I think it's $69.99 for a 6 scale case, and then I think it's $79.99 for the quarter scale case. And there's quite a bit of distance. I'm looking up at my Thanos series kind of towering over me with his Infinity Gauntlet. There's quite a bit of space in there. And if you really wanted to get even if you wanted to get one of the quarter scale ones and then be able to do like a vertical pose of like an Iron Man flying up above like some of the other Avengers, like I think you could maybe squeeze quite a few characters in there. Mm-hmm. But it's a good spot for my Thanos, and I know it's well protected and it has lights on. The lights aren't like LED strip lights that you'd have in a DTOF. They're more kind of like accentuating features lights. And as I talked about it, we're not going to do a full review of this, but I'd give the cases like a B+. What you're getting for what you pay. I mean, obviously, a DTOF is an insane value when you think about what you're getting for it. And this is much smaller, but it has lights built in. I think for people like myself that have storage issues, I should say, people like me that have display space issues, it's a good opportunity to use more of that vertical space. So I enjoyed that one so much I decided to get another quarter scale case that I have now sitting right behind me here, and it's patiently waiting for a Hulk from Endgame, because I'm jumping to I'm on my jump to conclusions mat. And then I also decided to get 2 of the 6 scale cases so that I can put on top of 2 of the other DTOFs. So I'll have all that vertical space used at some point. And I figure each one of those will probably be able to hold maybe 3 characters pretty comfortably. So as I start to have my collection grow, and I'm kind of at the point where I don't think I would pare it down, I actually feel pretty good about what I've got. It'll allow the collection to grow a little bit in time and not have to have heart palpitations that I'm just not going to be able to have storage space for everything.
It's a great option. It's a problem that we all deal with at one point or another. I'm glad that worked out for you. And I definitely want to get over there and check it out because, I don't have the display space yet. An update on the house build is it's continuously delayed. At some point, I'll have a display room. But I'd like to get some ideas and see it in person because I haven't really seen too many displays. Actually, the only Hot Toys display I've ever seen is yours in person. So
yeah, you just need to take a trip out to Colorado to see Steve's.
I know. I wish I had a work excuse that I could get out there. No, it's good that they have that option. I mean, was there free shipping on it, or did you have to pay shipping?
The shipping was I want to say it was maybe like $12 or so per case. I think the quarter scale one came to like 91 or 92, and of course we don't have sales tax in the state of New Hampshire. So I mean, overall, it's a good option for somebody like me. I don't think it's going to work for everybody, but that being said, it's worth checking out, at least if you kind of are in the same boat that I am. Sold a couple more accessories, Chris. I decided to sell my Tony Stark head sculpt from the Mark 46, added in one of the neck pieces on there. I have a hunch the person I sold it to on eBay was probably going to try to use it for the Mark 46 concept art because they were kind of insistent in including the neck piece. And I'm like, well, if I don't have the head sculpt, I don't really need the neck piece at that point. So sold that for, I thought, pretty good value. And as I have a history with that, as I've kind of set up my Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi, I have it kind of set up how I want it, and I've kind of just been piecing out a couple different things. A couple episodes ago, I mentioned I got rid of the stand and some of the lightsaber blades, and I ended up selling just the LED lightsaber arm on eBay, and that sold for what I was asking for. Now that I have not that I'm an experienced seller with parts. There's definitely a demand out there. I mean, there's some other sites out there like Toy Anxiety, Monkey Depot, I think is one of the other ones. And, where people either have the figures and one of those parts breaks and they're trying to find a replacement for it. Not that I have it all figured out in terms of price and stuff, but some of those things that you think maybe aren't super desirable, just leaving them on eBay, leave them in your store, and you be surprised sometime when somebody just comes along and buys them. I might take another pass through just for some of those things that I think might fall into that category that I don't maybe necessarily want it to put up for. I usually only use auction style when I have something I think people are going to want to bid up, because I don't want to sell something for like 99 cents. I mean, I might as well just keep it if you ask me. So I might look to do a little bit more of that as the summer kind of comes on. Try to see if I can, turn that into another figure or something.
Yeah, man. That's, I know you've basically perfected.
I would say perfected, but I will take any lavish other compliments that you have.
Yes. Your parts, accessory skimming through your collection has been a very interesting thing to follow over the last six plus months. Again, I mean, I got all these figures sitting here. I could recoup some of that money, but without having the display space, I don't really want to part anything out until I know how I want to set stuff up. No, that's good stuff. I mean, I've got a couple items from that Black Widow from Infinity War that I bought up on eBay. I've already sold the stand for it, and I just got to work on figuring out if I can remove the suit without damaging it, because it says in the instructions, do not remove suit, because I wanted to use that body for my kit that I have from Super MC Toys. But anyway, I've been able to recoup at least a little bit of that, and no, it makes sense. Just make your collection pay for itself.
So I mentioned those figures that did come in. Obviously, we reviewed the Black Panther figure last episode out. I finally got mine in. Obviously, I've got Thanos in. We both have that in hand. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And obviously, as we mentioned, we both got the Markel in. And I've been so busy since last week, I haven't even really messed around with that figure. Chris, was more excited to finally get the Markel Tony Stark head sculpt so I could finally finish my first ever semi-custom Hot Toys figure. I keep looking at it here. I've got the Tony Stark nano suit from Super MC Toys. I gotta say, Chris, I don't think I'll ever go the route of... I still don't know if I can bring myself to do a full like third-party figure, but Super MC Toys, their kits, at least the Infinity War nano suit, it's pretty good. I mean, the quality of it is really good. And as I talked about last episode, I talked to a friend Zach at Collecting Weekly and got some pointers from him on what body to use. I just ended up finding an extra Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi body on eBay, and it already had padding on the upper body. And he actually, I think I mentioned it last time out, Mark Hamill and Robert Downey Jr. are about the same height, but Robert Downey Jr. wore like elevated shoes and stuff in the MCU. So I got ankle peg extensions from a Royal Guard, online Toy Anxiety. And then what else did I do? So I used the head sculpt of what I just got in with the Markel. I used some of the hands that came with the Luke Skywalker that I already had, and the extra wrist pegs from that. And yeah, it's really cool. I keep looking at it, and it's funny because although I feel like it's a custom, it's still, because it's basically all Hot Toys parts except for the Super MC kit. It fits in pretty well with my collection. I gotta say, I don't know if I'm gonna ever be a full convert into opening myself up to that realm of the collecting side, but I have to give it to Super MC Toys on that kit.
Yeah, that's one that I really want to try to finish. I want to get that thing together. Be interested to see what else they come up with. One project that talking about Pepper Potts, I really would like to try to find an outfit that would match the one that she's wearing in that scene in Infinity War, so I could update her outfit and pose Pepper and Tony together. She's got like a like a jogging suit and stuff, but I have yet to find one that's close enough that it's worth trying. So I'm gonna keep searching for that. And yeah, those kits, man. Like I said, I get the Black Widow one. There's a bunch that Roy found that look just amazing. They're really tough to find. One for Tony, and another one for Steve Rogers from Civil War. So yeah, I would definitely suggest, going for that. It gives an alternative look to your, to the collection. It is a slippery slope, and the prices do add up for those kits, and you just got to be careful with how far you go into that area of collecting.
Yeah, I think if I don't count the cost of the head sculpt, because obviously that came with a Markel, I think I was at maybe 128 total cost of all the extra stuff I had to buy, the kit and stuff. So, to get a Hot Toys quality figure for that, I don't really have any problem with that. But like you said, it's easy to kind of lose, track of that, because it's a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, and after you realize, you're like, oh, that really added up pretty quick.
Yeah, like you said, Collecting Weekly, Dean over there, he's putting together some figures, and he was talking about, I think it was one of their latest episodes, how he's like, oh, that's a great price on the head sculpt, and then starts adding up the kit, putting it together, and it's just like over $200 and something, and you're like, oh man, I wish I could just get it all as one. That's the way that a lot of these kits go. You got to piece it together, and I've yet to find the right formula to go about it. It's just fun. It's something different.
So a couple other things, I'll mention it really quickly. I have no willpower. I have completist tendencies, as I mentioned, because last time I picked up an extra Captain America figure from Infinity War. Talking about that Spider-Man Far From Home, I just had to, I got it. I know it's exactly the figure that I have, but I'm hoping to have like a full Far From Home, shelf. I'm not going to go buy an extra Iron Spider, because that would just be really crazy, unless they also have a movie promo Iron Spider. That was a joke, by the way. But
yeah, I know. I'm laughing on the inside.
Yeah, you should. So I'm I've got that on a one of the payment plans, and I'm not super eager to I'm not like, I don't have to have that in July when it releases. I can wait for that. So a couple other things, I'm running really long. I didn't think I'd have this much of an update, but kind of looking at my shelves, and I'm kind of looking at my Iron Man 3 shelf, and it's going to be kind of lonely because I just have the Mark 42. And I've got a couple War Machines on the way, the Mark 4 and the Mark 6 from Infinity War and Endgame, respectively. And I know TC was giving me some grief. He's, saying he was going back through some of our early episodes recently, and I gave some pretty horrible advice about, I guess selling my Mark 47 for some really other cool stuff. And I don't have any of that really cool stuff anymore, but I do have my a Mark 47 back, not the one I had. I've really regretted getting rid of my Iron Patriot, Chris, so I rectified that. And I think I paid originally what I did for it originally, but I paid way more than I sold it for on eBay. So lesson learned there. I think that cost started to go up a little bit as a result of Endgame and seeing Rhodey a little bit more featured in that. Mm-hmm. And then I started looking some more, and I'm like, hey, let me go to our checklist and see what other diecast figures are out there. And I know you had talked about getting the War Machine Mark II from Iron Man 3, even though that was technically in Age of Ultron. I'm not going to reopen that, but I actually did want to see if I could track down that Age of Ultron Mark II, because it had the Rhodey head sculpt, and it was actually, I did find out with some research, Chris, that there is a little bit different paint app on that. The Mark II from Iron Man 3 is what they thought it was going to look like, and then they tried to, when they did the sideshow exclusive for Age of Ultron, they went more movie accurate based on the Age of Ultron film. So it's funny because you've got the Iron Man 3 one and no real desire to get the Age of Ultron one. And now I don't really have any desire to go get the Iron Man 3 one. So, when you get your collecting space all taken care of, we can, do a comparison between the two of them. But got some, some pretty good deals on those, both brand new and sealed. I have not had the opportunity, other than just a few minutes before we started to record, to take a peek at the Mark II. And it was funny. I was joking with you as I was opening up the shipper, and there was included like a Sideshow promo code from like 2014 when the Iron Patriot was originally out. Anyways, it was an older promo code. I was actually semi-inclined to go ahead and try it out, but I knew it would be expired anyways. They'd probably laugh at me for trying. Yeah. Maybe they'd feel pity on me and give me a code anyways. But sorry for rambling, my friend. I just had quite a bit of an update to share.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, you've been busy. Yes, for me, I didn't really go that crazy. I got Thanos and Mark Allen. So got those opened up, put some pics on the group and on Instagram and stuff. Another figure that you've had yours for a while, and TC, I forget if it was on one of the assembles or what, but he had said, are you going to go for the 1 through 7 for the Iron Man?
The OG.
Yeah, the OG Iron Man lineup. And I was like, man, I got 4, 5, 6. I got 7 on order. I'm like, dang. I'm looking at again, Zach, Collecting Weekly, had gotten his Mark III Iron Man diecast not that long ago. And I'm like, man, what are the prices going for? And I look, I'm like, oh my God, no way. There's no way I'm paying the prices that they've been selling for the last 2 months. And I ended up getting one through the group and for a good price. It's the exclusive. It's got the Tony Stark has a heart little case, and that's MMS 256 diecast 7. And I gotta say, man, like, yeah, it doesn't have as much diecast as the newer ones, and maybe the construction of it is not quite up to par with what's coming out now. But man, it's a good looking figure. It's pretty close. That's going to display really nicely. And I'm honestly, I don't think I'm going to do it, but it got me thinking like, oh man, a Hall of Armor with them all lined up in there. But I doubt I'm going to go that route.
You really have very limited display options when you do that too.
That's the thing. It's like, maybe I get one and I have one case where it's got like the Mark II in it. And we talked about the third party tech or test or whatever, mech test Tony that's coming out for, I think, a reasonable price. Like that would kind of look cool in there, but I don't know. It's a great figure, and hopefully, I know a few of our other listeners in the group are looking for one too. I hope that they can find it at a similar price as to what I paid and not have to pay the completely ridiculous prices people.
Yeah, and I know somebody that would be willing to take that Tony Stark has a heart accessory off your hands if you look to get rid of that.
I know. I'm going to hold that over you for a while.
Oh, I don't know if I was talking about me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, as far as, was that a Sideshow exclusive, or I don't really know the history between.
Yeah, I think it was, or it may have been like definitely was part of the exclusive. I think that was the only one that's come with one of the diecast ones. I know a couple of the original ones I think had that included with it. Gotcha. Maybe one of the first Mark IIIs, because the Mark III was, I think, one of the first Marvel figures they did. Obviously, the head sculpt and whatnot can't even compare. I mean, I think some of the Hot Toys original head sculpts might not even be on par with some of the current third-party stuff. As I know we were talking with Lotus on the most recent Assemble, and I feel like, as I mentioned on there, I feel like he's one of our, group historians. As
for sure.
And I know TC's been collecting for a long time too, so it's great to have that information that you just can't go hunting on the internet for. I think that's why it's great to have a community like this, because you can share knowledge and people are respectful of other opinions. And I think people value that experience that people have, because we don't have the time, or most of us haven't been at this collecting thing for a long time. I mean, you and I are, a year or two at this point, a little bit more. I think I'm probably approaching 2 years. And yeah, so anyways, I'm not sure exactly what that came from, but I think it's still a cool little accessory to have.
Definitely. And then let's see what else. We talked about it before. Rescue was a dopo for me, day one pre-order. Had to get her locked down. And then we talked about the kits. I had to get 2 bodies for the nano suit Tony. I didn't go with a Hot Toys one. I just ordered a couple from TNS Figures. I'm curious to see how those work out. I kind of went off of what Steve and Roy and some of the other collectors had used. And then I had talked about it, I think it was on the Assemble, but I ditched one of my other customs that I was going to work on, but I had an extra suit. So after seeing that it was like Howard Potts third-party figure in the suit, I decided I'm going to make a Tony in a suit. So I've got plenty of head sculpts to work with, and so I'm going to just put that together. And the bodies are like super cheap. They're like $18 shipped. We'll see what the quality is on them, but I guess a lot of people have used them. And so that's pretty much it for me for a collection update. I'm hoping that, as we discuss here, we might get some more announcements soon. It was cool to see that Spidey before we record, and that way we had something to talk about.
We probably don't really have an official topic. I know we'll get to talking about Thanos in just a minute, but I think setting up the custom and seeing actually what one of these figures look like underneath all the clothing and whatnot kind of gives you a little bit different appreciation for what the figures can and can't do. And, talking with Roy and kind of, futzing around with some of the clothing and stuff. And I like, even as great as like the nano suit thing was from Super MC Toys, it's actually difficult for like around the ankle region, so that the pant legs, because like a lot of the Hot Toys figures have a really narrow leg, and then you've got the ankle joint, which is really thin too. And I guess you could bulk it up a little bit, but then you kind of have to like move the pants around in a certain little way so it doesn't look completely weird. And you getting the neck just right on the figure. I know I was messaging with Zach back and forth, both probably publicly on our Facebook page and then privately through Messenger. And he's a great resource in the collecting space to help with those. And he's more than willing to help people out. So definitely a great person to have in the community there. So maybe at some point we'll talk about how to build a custom and some tips and things that we've learned. But Chris, I know the podcast is starting to run a little long, and I'm sure we'll have time for another topic at another time, but let's get into talking about Thanos.
Okay. Let's do it.
We won't pick on PJ the Paradox Nerd for the way that he says Thanos or whatever. potato. He is the Mad Titan. And Chris, figure from Avengers Infinity War, MMS 479, retailed for $376. March 2nd, 2018 was a pre-order. It's one of the early figures made available through pre-order on the Infinity War line, and had about 11 months or so to get released in Hong Kong. It was a February 8th, 2019 release. We thought it was potentially one of those Infinity War figures that were going to maybe get released towards the end of 2018, and we just had to wait a little bit longer. The figure was featured pretty prominently on like the quarterly projected release from Sideshow. The quarterly release from Hot Toys, and I think if I stand corrected, they have actually released all those figures, like, with the exception kind of. Well, I guess they did release the quarter scale Joker, but I mean the distribution in the United States has been horrible for that. Chris, was this a dopo for you?
No, this one was, I was pretty late to the game with this figure. I had him, this guy, I waited until February 7th of this year to order him. So
literally like a day before you release in Hong Kong.
Yep, that was pretty much it. As soon as people started, I don't know if anybody had gotten him in hand. It was like rumors that he was going to be released in Hong Kong. I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to order it. And and I had used a fair amount of rewards points on him, so I paid way less than retail on this guy, so that really helped. And that's pretty much what sealed the deal for me with it, having those rewards points to go towards him. But yeah, 11 months, that's not too bad for this figure. Completely new. Everything's new on this figure.
Yeah, I didn't even order mine until May 1st, and I waited till after Avengers Endgame because I wanted to see which version I preferred. And I actually preferred the Infinity War look to the Endgame. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse with, for me, it was having the gauntlet on the Endgame figure when he doesn't even have the gauntlet. I mean, I guess we're probably at the point where we don't have to worry about spoilers all that much, but I'm sure they'll fix that with an update to it, because they probably didn't know that at the time they made the figure in terms of, the release schedule and what they were given for promotional images and concept art and all that other stuff. Yeah, I mentioned him a little bit ago, but I have to really credit PJ the Paradox Nerd and his YouTube review of this figure in 4K that really got me to get it. I mean, PJ, as he's, as we talked about in the Assemble, a lot of new members that come into our Facebook group think he's part of the Six Scale Scavengers team because he's always mentioned as a host. He's kind of unofficially part of the team. He's welcome to join us whenever he can. He's a great part of the community, and I'm biased, but I think he has some of the best YouTube reviews out there. So, kudos to you, my friend, for getting me to do that. But that was really what kind of sealed the deal, was that review and then seeing the film and deciding which Thanos I wanted to go with.
Absolutely. It was great to see that up on the TV, on the big screen, and it's amazing the quality of his videos and everything. I feel the same way. I like this version of Thanos. I mean, the other one looks really cool, and he kicks a lot of butt. There's something about this one that he was brutal in Infinity War.
I mean, it's basically, you could argue it's his film.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they did such a good job with the script and the way that the movie was directed and produced. Like, I found myself a couple times like, I'm not sure he's necessarily wrong. And that's kind of weird to say that as a villain. I mean, the MCU has had a long history of kind of sometimes questionable villains, but Thanos is by far one of the best, if not the best villain that's ever graced a comic book movie. I mean, Joker is right up there, but, I think he definitely earned that mantle. So, Chris, let's talk about, the figure itself. Overall aesthetic about this, it's fantastic. In hand, the photos don't really do it a ton of justice. I have to say that a lot of the promo images didn't even show that alternate head sculpt, and I actually prefer that one to the standard one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Showing his teeth, the gridded look. It's really I'm just looking at the head sculpt now. It's just insane, the detail that they get into this figure. The teeth are a separate piece, so it really has that separation in his mouth. The paint on the eyes. He's got that squinted look. I mean, they really knocked it out of the park, showing all the musculature in his face and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know how they could do any better than this, honestly.
And I mean, he is tall. I mean, he's about 16 and a half inches tall. You will not fit him on a standard DTOF shelf unless you really got him like in a crouch down position. Or I actually had thought about at one point, Chris, with the figure, as trying to get something like he could kind of sit down on, like kind of just not necessarily chilling out, but like, you know, kind of when he's talking to Gamora. I don't know. I couldn't bear myself to get a figure of this magnitude and like have him sit down. I'm like, that's just that's not who Thanos is. And he needs to be look menacing, showing off all those Infinity Stones. And I mean, not having any accessories basically whatsoever, I didn't care. I mean, you know, he obviously didn't have his big double-bladed sword in this film. He does come with a couple extra hands. On the right hand, he's basically 3. He's got a fist, a relaxed hand, and a gesturing. He has that extra head sculpt you mentioned. Does have that other arm. You can interchange his left arm. One of them has you have a little articulation to it, and then you have the other one that's kind of already flexing the bicep. The elephant in the room on that one, Chris, is obviously the bicep looks really unnatural because there's a big gap between where the gauntlet is and where his bicep is. I think if you look at the figure from front on, you don't even notice it. It's when you look at it from the side that it becomes an issue. And I have mine on top of a DTOF, so I don't even see that anyways.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the angle is everything in how you have it posed. So it's so that the arm, the curled arm with the fist or the gauntlet in the permanent fist. Well, they both of them light up. Both hands gauntlets light up. I did mess around with the light up feature on that flexed arm. I would say that it's the light up feature is okay. When you look at the promo images on Sideshow or on Hot Toys, it's, you know, they kind of give it a little bit extra lighting effect, but, you know, it's cool. I wouldn't say that it works the greatest. The thumb one almost doesn't illuminate at all. It is cool that it at least lights up if you want to have it displayed that way, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to get those batteries in there. It's the first time I've ever installed batteries on any of my figures.
Yeah, I passed on that. Yeah, I was hoping you were going to check it out so we could then talk about it. I could live vicariously through you.
I figured that was going to be the case. So I tried.
I mean, we have pretty amateurish reviews anyways. I mean, the fact that we went the extra mile here, listeners, and Chris decided to take one for the team and put the batteries in, give him a little credit here.
Yeah, it was a bit of a stretch. I tried taking some pictures with the light up feature, and I had the hardest time trying to get a picture that it really showed that the light up feature. But it is cool nonetheless to have two different arms, because the arm that it comes packed with, it's got articulated fingers, so you can do different poses. Can't quite get the thumb and the index finger to make a snapping motion, but if you have it at a right angle, you might be able to, you know, kind of create that scene, like the paint finish and everything on the gauntlets. I mean, it looks pretty awesome. It's not quite as weathered, and the patina isn't quite there compared to what the prototype has in the promo images, but in hand, I mean, it looks awesome. It's very menacing. And you talked about the height of it and even the weight of it. The box has a handle, so you know you're dealing with some heft there.
That's the part that amazed me about the figure. I was like, I told like our admin team, I'm like, guys, it has a handle.
Yeah. I know, it's pretty cool. And the box, the box does weigh quite a bit. Between the base and the backdrop and this figure, you've got some weight there.
So I don't know, a couple of the nitpicky things I got about the figure. So obviously I mentioned a little bit about the bicep gap. Not a huge deal. I found, and I don't know if it's just my figure or not, I have a feeling it's not, is lining up the right hand with the arm. I feel like there was a little bit of a gap at some points, and not like a gap that you would think. It's actually, I feel like the hand wrist placement is a little bit larger than the actual wrist. So you kind of have to have it in a certain, twisted in a certain way so it doesn't feel like the hand is like super big for, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's definitely something to kind of be mindful of. And I think the same thing about his head. And there's a little bit of a gap at the base of his head where the neck connects, and you kind of have to be a little careful about that. Even in the instructions, it has you make sure that you don't tip it down too far so you don't get any of the paint rub there. And then again, I think some of the early reviewers complained about, I don't know if they were excessively using the ratchet joints within, I don't know if the arms are technically silicone or whatever they are, but leaving it in a pose too long and having it paint rub or wear down. I have mine with the right arm just extended out and straight, and I am using the flex gauntlet to have that. And so that way I'm not really putting a ton of stress on it. But I would also say I'm pretty impressed with the balance of the figure. Now, those Legend Studio cases, the base of it actually, and it's not small, it's just that Thanos base is huge. It's not fitting in that. So, but I also have no issues with it. It's not tippy at all. It's pretty solid throughout. I am way more pleased, Chris, with the figure than I thought it was going to be.
No, I'm right there with you. It's in hand. This figure is just, it's just awesome. There's some issues like the elbow joint on the right arm looks kind of weird. If you bend his elbow too much, the skin kind of gives a crease there. It's crazy. Like I know there's no comparison to it whatsoever, but I had the Thanos Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure from Wave that came out last year, and I thought that was pretty cool. It was even cooler when I sold it for a pretty good amount of money. But this figure, I mean, it's just like an ultimate version of this figure. There's a lot of statues and stuff out there that look pretty awesome, but I think this figure with the clothing, the articulation, that aggressive head sculpt, you can get this guy pretty close to some of those statues, and you have the option of changing him up every now and then. But yeah, I'm loving it. We got maybe a little bit more nitpicky things just because, the price point is higher. So you start looking at things a little bit more, but I don't know. It's definitely, I'm really glad that I got it.
So normally we come up with something, Chris, someone semi-creative. I think we gotta honor the Mad Titan here and just go with the number of Infinity gauntlets we would go for this. I was going to say Infinity Stones, but that doesn't really fit our 5-star review system.
No, it doesn't.
So let's go with 5 out of 5 Infinity gauntlets. What we would rate this Thanos figure?
Oh man, I mean, last episode I gave Black Panther 4.5. I mean, I think I've got to give Thanos 4.75. I think I'm at 4.75. The nitpicks that I've got for him are minimal in comparison to what you get for the figure. So totally worth it for me. How about you?
Yeah, I was thinking between 4.5 and 4.75 there. I don't think there's a couple things that I'm just not quite ready to say, perfect 5, it's perfect figure, because there are a couple little things. I think you do have to be careful with it. I think some of those things we mentioned are things if you do get the figure, you got to keep in mind. But I will say, and we talk about it, we've talked about it a couple times. I think one of the last times I mentioned it, I'm looking here at my Captain America figure from Infinity War. Sometimes some of these figures just have the presence that you feel like matches the film. And I think Hot Toys kind of captured the essence of Thanos with this. I would agree. Just to be different, I'll just say 4.5, just so we not in complete agreement. But I would say if you're looking for a Thanos to add to your collection, I think it's definitely worth considering. There are some options you have to display it if you don't have a mod for your DTOF. I'm pretty certain it will fit in a Billy case. So if you have one of those as your display option, you really shouldn't have an issue because you can change the shelf height in that. Just know it's 16.5 inches tall. It towers over. I need to do like a height comparison to like between him and the Markel. You definitely, you can see that this is a supersized individual. So I think we both, kind of have really good things to say about this one.
Yeah, just keep in mind if you're going to have him on his base, you're going to add about 3/4 of an inch there. Now I'm right there with you. This is a great figure. Definitely has a presence. My daughter, my 2-year-old, I had him set up in the my little photo booth, and she was down here with me. And I'm like, "Do you want to say hi to Thanos?" And she's like, "No, scary." so I'm like, "Well, he's at least doing his job."
And for some reason, my son loves Thanos, or he talks about him often. So I was like, "Hey, buddy, come check it out." He knows like the collecting room is just all the looking stuff. They're not to play with. Yeah. And he looked up and he just kind of grinned seeing Thanos up there. So
yeah, I know it's fun to share with the little ones, and
to an extent.
To an extent, yes, I've had some close calls. But anyway, let's wrap this.
Yes, let's wrap up. Yeah, let's wrap up the show here, Chris. So we've got our website and YouTube channel. We've got our TeePublic store, 6 Scale Scavengers. We've got our public Facebook page. We've got the private Facebook group, 6 Scale Scavenger Collectors. If you want to join in the conversation, you're a fan of the podcast, just please make sure you answer the questions. That's how we know that you are a listener and you can join in with the other listeners that we have in on the fun conversations that we have daily. We are on Instagram. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, and 6scalescavengers.libsyn.com. Chris, I am trying to get us on radio.com and iHeartRadio as well. As of right now, I'm not sure either of those have gone through, but just any way that we can get out there. And we certainly appreciate each and every one of you as a listener. The downloads are showing that you guys are tuning in. You're tuning in on YouTube, or you're turning in on Spotify, or turning in because you download the podcast. However you do it, we just certainly appreciate it, and we appreciate that we are part of your commute, your collecting experience, whether you're in part of our group, the help that we give, or others that give with lots of expertise in the collecting realm. It's just a really good time.
Couldn't have said it any better.
All right, Chris, this is going to be one of those lengthy episodes, even after I edit this and make us sound better. So why don't you bring us home, my friend?
Excelsior.